Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Stephen Brown, and in today's video, did Frederik Andersen deserve the Bronx cheer that he got tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks? And at that point in the game, it was already 5-1 Chicago, and he had been in net for all of the goals and allowed one more afterwards. And there's a difference between the Bronx cheer and just straight up booing a player like Leaf fans did last year with Jake Gardiner. And when we take a look at Frederik Andersen's game log this season, I guess you can kind of say that the Bronx cheer was something that was cumulative for him. Even when the Maple Leafs were on that insane 9-0-1 run, Frederik Andersen wasn't really the reason why they won a lot of those games. It was straight up their offense. They scored like 4 or 5 goals in like 10 straight games or something ridiculous like that. And the backup goaltending situation has been a problem as long as the Leafs have had Frederik Andersen for all but a year and a half. And in that year and a half, it was because of Curtis McElhinney, and I don't want to have that conversation anymore. Don't bring it up. The guy's rocking a 902 this year with the Tampa Bay Lightning. It doesn't advance the conversation or help anyone by saying the Leafs should have held on to him. And I don't want to see anyone blaming Kyle Dubas either and saying that, oh, this guy could have done a better job and that guy could have done a better job. You know what? Lou Lamoriello was GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs for 3 years, and he didn't bring in one damn defenseman to help stabilize that group. It was Roman Polak, Nikita Zaitsev, and Ron Hainsey thrown over the boards over and over again in situations they were not good enough to handle. At least Kyle Dubas has brought in guys like Jake Muzzin, like Tyson Barrie to address the weaknesses that this team has had over the last bunch of years. And now we can argue how effective those players have been in their roles, but at least they were brought in the first place. You know, the old regime before Kyle Dubas spent multiple second-round picks trying to find a solution for the fourth line, and Kyle Dubas just goes out and gets Jason Spezza for $700K. Mike Babcock really didn't like him, and he really didn't use him very well, but Sheldon Keefe hasn't. Jason Spezza's been great for this team, guys. So it's like I refuse to blame Dubas at this point for the goaltending situation because he's been progressive in other areas where the past regime just wasn't. Now, that doesn't mean that I will never blame Dubas for the goaltending situation. If this is something that progresses into next season or past this trade deadline, then we can have that conversation. I'm all for it. And if you want to blame Frederik Andersen, sure, the last couple of games have been on him. He played well against Calgary, but I have a hard time blaming this guy when you look at stats like this. This is since the 2016-17 season, since the Maple Leafs acquired Frederik Andersen, he's faced over 600 more shots than any goalie in the National Hockey League. And for all the injuries that the Maple Leafs have had this season, and especially over the last month or so, and the shit show that it was for the first 20 games or so with the coach, it's hard to really formulate any conclusive opinions on anyone's play because it keeps wavering so far and extreme from one 5-game sample to the next that it's just, I don't know. I normally reserve my harsh criticism for the team till after the trade deadline because that's when the team is what it is, right? There's no changes being made after the trade deadline that's going to help out this team. And for the people that are holding on to those split stats month to month for Frederik Andersen, throw that out the window. That's not conclusive of anything, not even this season. You need a lot more context to pile on there to start blaming Freddie for anything. If you want stats that are conclusive, if you want a sample size that's conclusive of anything when it comes to Frederik Andersen, just go to his HockeyDB page and look at his save percentage over the last 4 seasons. 919, 918, 918, 917. If I had to put money on what Frederik Andersen's save percentage was going to be at the end of this year, I'd put money on one of those numbers. I think everyone just needs to take a step back, relax, and breathe. And I think everyone needs to remember November 20th. November 20th was when the Leafs fired Mike Babcock, and the team was 9-10-4. People were saying, thank God that Kyle Dubas lottery protected the pick that they traded to Carolina in exchange for taking on Patrick Marleau's cap hit because things were so abysmal. But I think that people need to remember the excitement from that day. And the excitement is that the Leafs finally had a chance. That's what everyone thought, at least. And less than 2 months to the day that they fired Mike Babcock, if we take a look at the playoff picture, this is not abysmal. This is doable. The fact that they turned this ship around in less than 2 months is absolutely impressive. Especially when you consider the fact that they missed John Tavares for a significant amount of time, and they had injuries all over their top 9 and top 6, and all over their D-core, and they didn't have a backup goalie all season long. It's just like I get it. I understand why some people are mad, but I can't bring myself to be at that level, because just when I look at the standings, they did the thing. They're there. They're right there. And a lot of people really didn't think that they would be. I mean, at that point, they were given like a 25% chance. 25% to make the playoffs. I don't know what it is now, but it's definitely right there. And you know what? I don't care. I don't care we finished in a wild card spot. I don't care we finished third in the Atlantic Division, because this team, when they're clicking and they're going as good as we know they can beat anyone out there. And as long as they get into the playoffs, they got a shot. And I don't think that I or anyone else needs to sell you on that hope. If you've watched the games this season, you would know that without me saying it. And I'm not saying it's okay to lose 8-4 on the road to a divisional rival. And I'm not saying it's okay to go on Hockey Night in Canada and get your ass kicked like that. But I'm not as mad as other people are, and I can't bring myself to be that upset, because when you look at the picture overall the last 2 months, these are huge positive steps in the right direction. And if it takes them another month or so to figure out the rest of their problems, go for it. But like I said, I'm reserving my harsh criticism for this team until after the trade deadline. And if things are still going the way they are by then I'm going to be pretty upset. That's all for this one, guys. Leave me a like if you did like the video, and subscribe for more, because more is always on the way. And as always, guys, take care.